being a classically trained singer, I am able to put myself in the position of the artist on stage and think, do I want this title above my head if I were performing? I was a voice major at Carroll University in Waukesha, Wisconsin. And my summer after my junior and senior year, we partnered with the Florentine Opera of Milwaukee to create productions. And I met a lot of people at the Florentine. I saw both sides of the stage in a way I hadn't ever before, and was offered a position of assistant stage manager the fall after I graduated as a voice major. What a great opportunity to jump right into it. And as I started stage managing more, I realized this fits really well. My mind is like an Excel spreadsheet. So the fact that I got to organize things and help people, be the best performer they can be and give the best performance they can give by being able to assist them in that from a stage management perspective, for me was just exhilarating and fun. And then throughout freelancing as a stage manager and an assistant stage manager, I got into ballet. And then I eventually came back to Florentine as company manager for a few years. And while I was there as company manager, I started doing their super titles. And now it's been 16 years that I've been providing super titles for the Florentine Opera of Milwaukee, as well as other regional companies. I feel like Supertitles is kind of fancy, but Supertitles, it's a big difference between obviously subtitles and supertitles. Super's above, sub is below. Supertitles are fairly new in the opera world, and was the early 1980s. It really came to life, really. And it was more to help, I think, American audiences understand what was happening. In Europe, everyone speaks multiple languages because they're so close. And in America at the time, and even now, that's just not as accessible. So the fact that we could bring, as an opera community, we could bring a translation of what is being sung in a very simple way to the audience draws more audiences in. That being said, a lot of the libretti, or the text of the opera is poetic. It's written obviously to fit, sometimes to rhyme in its own language, sometimes not. And it's also in different time periods, think Shakespeare, right? If something, you have to almost translate Shakespeare on some level at this point for comprehension. So that's what we do as Supertitle translators. We translate it from its original language into English. And then we are able to have some artistic license to be able to take away or add a word without distraction that helps to enhance the story. And when working with new productions, which I love to do, whether it's a new piece, or if it's just a new take on a traditional piece, it's really great to be able to work with the costume and set designers, with the stage director, and even the lighting designer to get even the color of the super titles to match and blend in with the color palette, because you never ever want it to distract or take away. We're just adding, we're enhancing, and very subtly, because you don't want the game of up and down all night. You want everyone to be focused on the performers, on the stage direction, on the costumes and the sets and the props and the lighting, all of what makes grand opera grand. And when it's wrong, when there's a cheesy one, when there's just an archaic word that's there and it distracts you, and then you start thinking about it, and then you're taken out of the show. Well, that's no good. That's not why you're there. Even color, the font, those are little things that we pay attention to just to make it all one big, beautiful picture.
I do think it enhances the story so much because you can take from it what you need. The translation, how do you work through that? Do you speak multiple languages? Do you do a lot of research? What's your process with that part?
I do a lot of research. Reading a libretto versus having a conversation are two very different things. So translating conversationally is a lot different, again, than looking at something and reading it and have time to translate it. So I have basic comprehension of most languages. Russian and Czech I'm still working on, but the main Italian, German, French, Spanish even, being able to translate that, I do a lot of research. I find it fascinating to know why the librettist chose the words they did, why the librettist and the composer decided upon a certain topic, or a lot of times there's a lot of political underlie in it. There's a lot of little messages to the government at the time that they're and inside jokes within a country that they're giving that we in 2020 certainly don't understand. Maybe we do, but maybe we don't. And to have that subtle messaging and then to try to take that and research that subtle messaging and make it palatable and just even funny, for the audience is really a challenge, and it's really quite fun. Well, and I've had people ask me, oh, it's like closed captioning, right? It just automatically happens.
Oh.
And the thing is we have a team. So aside from me translating, cueing, making sure that everything is legible, there's usually a stagehand who is there to help facilitate any technical issues and help to advance each cue as it's being called by a separate supertitle caller. So it's like a stage manager, but just for the supertitles. So they're going through and they're following along with the music. And I have a cue in the book. And every time they see that number, they just say, go, go. So it's really not, completely not all me. There is a little team that works well together that's able to provide this for the audience. And comic timing is a huge, huge thing to be aware of during supertitles. I put a lot of blank slides in. I say slides. We used to use slides back in the day with projection. I still call them slides. But we put in blank cue marks. So that way we're able to, in comedies especially, not give away a punchline and give some breath if there's some shtick happening on stage. Think Barber, think Figaro. And so we're able to give some breath. And also though, in drama and tragedy as well, if there's a big, beautiful, lush aria, we want to have some blank cues in there just to be able to give a fermata its due or to give applause.
It's like the icing on the cake.
It is. It is.
Every way.
It is. And you have to be careful too not to jump a cue. So for instance, if there is a blank cue and you're waiting for that punchline, that cannot come up before that action has happened or that line has been started to be sung. So sometimes you almost have to hold it. Okay, then go. And that's the same case with, beautiful notes that are being held. I will have that blank cue at the cutoff. Because if they're singing and all of a sudden it goes blank, well, that's distracting. Mm-hmm. You don't want to see that. Again, how the font and the color looks, the brightness. It's all of these it's all in the details, right? And it's all the minutia of it that really makes it sing, I think, no pun intended. And when it's right, no one notices, right? When it's wrong, everyone does. The language barrier is helped being erased by the fact that we have a translation right over the singers' heads. And opera is not distant from what we experience every day as humans. Opera is about passion and love. It's about tragedy and sadness and loss. And it's about government overthrow. And it's about politics. There's always, no matter how out there you might think that a story might be, there's always base tenets of life that are seated in opera. There's something for everybody.